Hi, I am reading. Hi, today is 27th day of 30 days reading challenge. I am reading Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, page number 310. But he stood in the waiting room, and people who apparently had nothing to do with him were continually passing to and fro before him. In the next room, which looked like an office, several clerks were sitting, writing, and obviously they had no notion who or what Raskolnikov might be. He looked uneasily, suspiciously about him to see whether there was not some guard, some mysterious watch being kept on him to prevent his escape. But there was nothing of the sort. He saw only the faces of clerks absorbed in petty details. Then other people, no one second to have any concern with him. He might go where he liked for them. The conviction grew stronger in him that if that enigmatic man of yesterday, that phantom sprung out of the earth, had seen everything, they would not have let him stand and wait like that. And would they have waited till he elected to appear at 11? Either the man had not yet given information, or simply he knew nothing, had seen nothing, or how could he have seen nothing? And so all that had happened to him the day before was again a phantom, exaggerated by his sick and overstrained imaginations. The conjecture had begun to grow strong the day before, in the midst of all his alarm and despair. Thinking it all over now and preparing for a fresh conflict, he was suddenly aware that he was trembling, and he felt a rush of indignation and at the thought that he was trembling with fear and facing that hateful Porfiry Petrovich. What he dreaded above all was meeting that man again. He hated him with an intense, unmitigated hatred, and was afraid his hatred might betray him. His indignation was such that he ceased travelling at once. He made ready to go in with a cold and arrogant bearing, and swore to himself to keep as silent as possible, to watch and listen, and for once at least to control his overstrained nerve. At the moment he was summoned to Porfiry Petrovich. He found Porfiry Petrovich alone in his study. आता हूँ थोड़ा रुक के. He found he found Porfiry Petrovich alone in his study. His study was a room, neither large nor small, furnished with a large writing table that stood before a sofa, upholstered with checked material, a bureau, a bookcase in the corner, and several chairs, all government furniture of polished yellow wood. In the further wall there was a closed door. Beyond it there was no doubt other rooms. On Raskolnikov's entrance, Prory Petrovich had at once closed the door by which he had come in, and they remained alone. He met his visitor with an apparently genial and good-tempered air, and it was only after a few minutes that Raskolnikov saw a sign of certain awkwardness in him, as though he had been thrown out of his reckoning or caught in something very secret. Ah, my dear fellow, how are you? Here you? Ah, my dear fellow, here you are, in our domain, began Porphyry, holding out both hands to him. Come, sit down, old man. Or perhaps you don't like to be called my dear fellow and old man, doubtful. Please don't think it too familiar. Here on the sofa. Raskolnikov sat down, keeping his eyes fixed on him. In our domain, the apologies for familiarity, the French phrase "tot good," were all characteristic sign. He held out both hands to me, but he did not give me one. He drew it back in time. It struck him suspiciously. Both were watching each other, but when their eyes met, quick as lightning, they looked away. I brought you this paper about the watch. Here it is. Is it all right, or shall I copy it again? What? A paper? Yes, yes. Don't be uneasy. It's all right. Porphyry Petrovich said, as though in haste, and after he had said it, he took the paper and looked at it. Yes, it's all right. Nothing more is needed, he declared with the same rapidity, and he read the paper on the table. A minute later, when he was talking to something else, he took it from the table and put it on his bureau. I believe you said yesterday you would like to question me formally about my acquaintance with the murdered woman. Raskolnikov was beginning again. Why did I put in, I believe, passed through his mind in a why am I so uneasy at having put in that I believe came in a second place, and he suddenly felt that his uneasiness at the mere contact with Fairy, at the first word, at the first looks, had grown in an instant to monstrous proportions, and that this was fearfully dangerous. His nerves were quivering, his emotions was increasing. It's bad, I shall say too much again. Yes, yes, yes. There is no hurry, there is no hurry, muttered Roderick, moving to and fro about the table, about without any apparent as it were making dashes towards the bureau and the table. At one moment avoiding Raskolnikov's suspicious glance, and again standing still and looking him straight in his face. His fat, round little figure looked very strange, like a ball rolling from one side to the other and rebounding back. We have plenty of time. Do you smoke? Have you your own? Here a cigarette. He went on, offering his visitor cigarette. You know I am receiving you here, but my own quarters are through there. You know my common quarters. But I am living outside for the time. I had to have some repairs done here. It's almost finished now. Government quarters, you know, are a capital thing. What do you think? Yes, a capital thing, answered Raskolnikov, looking at him almost ironically. A capital thing, repeated Porfiry Petrovich, as though he had just thought of something quite different. Yes, a capital thing, he almost shouted at last, suddenly staring at Raskolnikov and stopping short 2 steps from him. This stupid repetition was too incourageous in its ineptitude. With a serious brooding and enigmatic glance, he turned upon his wrist. But this struck Raskolnikov's spleen more than ever, and he could not resist an ironical and rather incautious challenge. Tell me, please, he asked dully, looking almost insolently at him and taking a kind of pleasure in his own insolence. I believe it's a sort of legal tradition for all investigating lawyers to begin their attack from afar. with a trivial or at least an irrelevant subject so as to encourage or rather to divert the man they are cross-examining, to disarm his cautions, and then all at once to give him an unexpected knockdown blow with some fatal poison. Isn't that so? It's a sacred tradition mentioned, I fancy, in all the manuals of art. Yes, yes. Why do you imagine that was why I spoke about government quarters? And as he said this, Porfiry Petrovich screwed up his eyes and winked. A good humored, crafty look passed over his face. The wrinkles on his forehead were smoothed out, his eyes contracted, his features broadened, and he suddenly went off into a nervous prolonged shaking all over and looking Raskolnikov straight in the face. The latter forced himself to when Porphyry, seeing that he was laughing, broke into such a cough, and he turned almost crimson. Raskolnikov precaution overcome all precaution. He left off laughing, scowled and stared with hatred at Porphyry, keeping his eyes fixed on him while his intentionally prolonged laughter lasted.